Well, hello, friends, neighbors. John, your whiskey neighbor here. Welcome down the Nook. It's Sunday, so I want to share some samples with you, and I want to share some Irish samples. However, I want to make it a little more fun for myself, so I'm going to do this in a blind. So it really will be concentrating on, hey, what am I tasting? Because I don't know what I'm tasting until the reveal at the end. But what I'm going to look at is 3 samples from Andy on Glendalock, and that's really the focus. But then I thought, just again, to make it a bit more fun for me, I grabbed an Irish off the shelf that I have. This is Single Malt from the Busker, and threw it in here as well. Asked my son to pour. I have no idea what is what. So when you come back, why don't you, if you have any Glendalough Irish whiskey of any kind, I've got the single pot, I've got the single malt finished in Mizunara, the pot still, and their double barrel. So one of those would probably be the best to see if you can pick it out if we're getting the same flavors. And if not, really any Irish whiskey would be fun. This will be me just talking through some Irish samples, 3 from Glendalough and 1 from the Busker. 3, 4. A bit of a long intro. You can see that I wanted to have a little more fun than sometimes just pouring whiskey samples. Of course, that's always fun. I love samples. I love it when people share with me. And again, thank you, Andy, for these 3 from Glendalough. So what I have, I'll just go through, I don't know where they are down here, but so you know what I'm going to be trying to taste and describe. One is the Glendalough Double Barrel. That's a blended Irish whiskey. It's got some grain. It's got some single malt in it. And it's finished or matured, in ex-bourbon and ex-oloroso. Then Glendalough pot still, and pot still to be that is it's got malted and unmalted barley in it. That's got ex-bourbon, but it also has some virgin Irish oak, which is pretty cool. Then I've got Glendalough 7-year single malt Mizunara finish. So that's the Japanese oak. It's pretty rare. So it's a single malt, so it's all malted barley. And then it's finished in Japanese Mizunara cask. Then I also have this, the Busker. This single malt is, I believe, ex-bourbon and ex-sherry. All right, that's the lineup. Let's get at some whiskey. I'll nose them all, then gotta give you like what I'm getting and then my favorite. Then we'll taste them, what I'm getting, and then my favorite, and then I'll reveal. So let's go. This first one is yellow. The yellow dot, I mean. Oh, that's nice. Some cut fruits, some sweetness. Oh, and there's a bit of a musk or a huskiness, maybe a melon, like a cantaloupe. That's unique. Little graham cracker. Cool. Let's try the green dot. Whoa, this is... Okay, whatever little bit of funky I was getting on here, this is unique. It is... Actually, it kind of reminds me of that Barefaced, the mushroom infused bourbon. Canadian whiskey. It is like Parmesan cheese, or there's also a little sweetness, a little white grape, a little fruit. But what dominates this for me is something unique. Okay, next one, orange. This is bright, sweet. This reminds me of Irish whiskey. It's some cut up fruits, some cut apples, honey. There's a little light graham cracker in there. By far the sweetest, lightest, brightest nose through all of these. Sorry, should have said. This is blue. Subtle. Toned down, more sweetness, kind of a lot like yellow. No, this is brighter. This is the most relaxed of all of these. It's a nice gentle sweetness, a little bit of floral heather. Boy, very, very mild. Very, very light, well ripe, a golden, delicious apple. Okay, so what would be my favorite? Very interesting. I'm gonna say my favorite nose is yellow. It is a little more expressive than the blue, which is nice. Oh, but now I think it's funny. Now I think I'm identifying them, and that's a problem. But this is a good nose. It's brighter. It's the brightest of all of them. But it's also a little young. Okay, so just relaxing with the nose, easiest, but still some things going on. I'm gonna say yellow. I've by far the funkiest nose. Would stand out. I'm afraid I feel like I know what's already in here. This is a unique nose, this green dot, but we'll say yellow's my favorite. Okay, I've written down my ranking in terms of favorites, but it really is more about what I'm smelling, and I think actually each one of these is unique and could appeal to myself in a certain mood. Let's start tasting. I'm gonna go with blue first and work our way down. So this is blue. It's an Irish whiskey of some kind. Very enjoyable. It's got some nice, relaxed spices, some sweetness, a malt character that holds it together, little cereal notes, little graham cracker. That's an easily enjoyable, relaxed dram. Very nice. Yellow or is that orange? That's orange. Sorry, orange, an Irish whiskey. Sláinte. That has a lot more grain characteristic. Add the cereal that I've been talking to, but add a nutty, not quite barn grain quality, but a real harvest grain quality for me. That's interesting. Now I say grain, but I mean a character of the distilled cereal. By that, it could be all barley because a lot of those notes, that young barley nutty note, I get from barley, and I don't want to miscommunicate to you guys. So that one, definitely more character from whatever the cereal grain is in there. Green? Palate follows that unique nose. I feel like, I mean, blue cheese is a radical tasting note for a whiskey, but definite husky, musky, earthy, I would say umami type flavors. Actually really reminds me of that barefaced Canadian whiskey that has Mizunara mushrooms floated in it. Last on the palate, yellow. Sláinte. And it's fallen from grace. This is now caramel, toffee, light whiskey. It actually moves from the most relaxed nose, and I gave it number one. And it's a nice nose. It is my least interesting palate. It's fine. It's nice. It's tasty. But it's just that. It's faded right away to just a relaxed, almost generic whiskey. Wow. Clearly the most unique up here, absolute different, is this green dot. I'm struggling a bit between, do I like the blue or do I like this orange better in the palate? They both have more flavors to offer than this yellow, which has moved from, hey, this nose is pretty good, to actually it's the least interesting up here, and is a dram that I probably wouldn't return to pretty often because it's pretty boring. I took some time to taste, sip a little bit between these blue and the orange. They're in the running for my favorite palette here, and I'm really struggling. I find the fruit notes to be richer and nicer in this blue. This is a better fruit forward, but still some malt character. I'm liking blue quite a bit. But this orange has a really nice, husky, nutty character, which I like. I think I'm gonna give my taste preference to orange, and then go blue. So I'm going to write that down. I'll give you numerically what the ranking says is my favorite whiskey, and then I'll reveal what I think each whiskey is. Okay, so sometimes I just don't agree with the math. All I did was a ranking combination, right? So I just gave them all a score, 1 to 4, and then on nose and palate, and then just added them, and the lowest score must be my favorite. And I agree with the lowest score, which is orange. Orange for me was my second favorite nose and my favorite palate, and I like this. And then it says I'm tied between blue and yellow, and after the palate experience, like, that's not true. Blue is significantly better, like significantly better. So blue has to be my second choice. And then it says like significantly that this very unique whiskey is last behind the yellow. And again, I struggled because this whiskey fell so far out of grace with the nose, after the nose, that I want to put it third. So I really want to put yellow as my first, blue as my second, green as my third, but certainly the most standout and unique whiskey. And yellow is, it's fine. It's a great average whiskey. Anyways, so whatever the math is, that's my ranking. Now I'll guess. I don't know these whiskeys well, but I think I'm curious to see how accurate I would be. This is the least important part of any kind of tasting. I hope more just my tasting notes has sparked an interest in any one of these whiskeys. So I think this yellow is Glendalough Double Barrel. I think it has a nice balanced nose, but it really just becomes a pretty average whiskey when it comes in there. So I think that's the Double Barrel. This green, I think is a Mizunara finish. I really, and if I'm wrong on this, feel free to shame me in whatever way possible. I really feel this is the most unique up here. It is so nutty, mushroomy, I don't know, blue cheesy. Like, it is a very unique dram. I think this orange here is their pot still. I think this is Glendalough pot still. It's got that really nice, I know I say great and then people get misunderstood. There's only barley in a pot still, but I get a nutty, husky grain. For me, I call it a grain quality that I really like in this. And it's expressive and it's kind of lightly peppery, and I like this one, and that's why I picked it as my favorite. The blue, I think, is this Single Malt, the Busker, which is incredibly affordable. And to stand up in this line, if I'm right that this is a Busker, that's impressive that it's my second pick. Let's try the reveal and see just how bad John is. So, red. There is no red, so we'll call this one must be red. And this is the pot still. I was right about that, and it's my favorite. I'm good with that. Orange, there is no orange, so my son is colorblind. This is yellow, and it is the Double Barrel. I was right on that. Green, phew, I don't have to hang up my whiskey reviewing hat, is the Mizunara finish, and it's like, really, I've only had it once with Andy. He poured this for me, so this is only the second time I've ever had the Mizunara finish, but it is just wildly unique. And then he's saying purple, I think I called it blue the whole time, is the Busker. So I ended up identifying them properly, and it's interesting that I wouldn't have, well, probably the Mizunara from the nose, but as you spend even just a few minutes, they start to express their character. A pot still, a single malt, a Mizunara finish, and a double barrel that really has a fair amount of influence, I would say, from the ex-bourbon. Thanks for joining me. I hope that was fun. I like doing Sample Sundays, just samples and just sharing my thoughts. This was also just an extra layer for me to have a little fun to see what would my palate rank and what would I think, and I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. You guys have a great rest of your Sunday and a fantastic entrance to the work week. Take care.